This looks great. Okay, so my first thing would be, just because this is for an interview for Remineralize the Earth.
Yes.
She saw the video and she's like, "Oh, can we do an interview?" So
Oh, sure.
I said, sure. And so the first thing would be introduction.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
Hi, I'm Sandor Johnson. I'm the owner of Potter Settlement Artisan Winery here in the shadow of the Canadian Shield. We're a little mineral trap right here at the very lee of the Shield. We make high-end wines. I serve the President of the United States and the Prime Minister in their offices, and we just won twice in Bordeaux, France, which is, it's like sending sand to the beach. So we're quite pleased.
Well, congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
My first question I remember offhand is, how many acres?
We have 13 acres under vine, as you can see here. 80 acres. Do you want to wait till that stops?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay, because most of the video is just to take screen grabs, and then I'm going to be writing it out.
Sure,
so,
I just, when these cannons go off, I don't want to interrupt your...
No problem.
They'll go in threes. So we have 13 acres under vine. This is a 100-acre farm. We've been here since 1836. And the other 80 acres we leave to Mother Nature.
Okay. And let me just see.
What percent of the winery's been remineralized?
Right. What percentage of the winery's been remineralized?
Well, the area that has been remineralized, we noticed a dead spot in amongst these grapes. Nothing was coming up. So this spring we had Alan come out. Alan has a lot of experience as a geomancer with looking at the soils, trying to figure out what it needs, and so he spent some time in about the one main acre in the middle of our most expensive and productive grapes. It was kind of a mystery to us why they weren't flowering. So he did his work. He bought minerals from all over the world. He kind of sussed out what it needed, and now things are kind of springing back to life. It's kind of remarkable. We're kind of astounded at this, actually. So our hope is that next year, once the plants have a little more strength, that they will produce fruit like these guys right here.
And how did you first find out about remineralization?
Actually through Alan. We've known Alan locally for quite some time. He's got a very unique and interesting approach to organic farming in that the earth, the energy fields of the earth, and certain mineralizations will allow for more organisms to come in. We're on the edge of the Shield, so this is hard, stony land, and it needed some organic material, but you can't have organic material until you have the precursors for organic material, which will allow the earthworms to come in and whatnot to create a more, I guess the correct word would be a more vibrant biome, which is what he's done. So.
And what are your impressions from the first experiment, the first year?
Well, we didn't know what would happen. We've tried different things, of course, putting in fertilizers and nothing. And we were kind of shocked that even though this was a very dry year for us, that everything just kind of bounced right back. You should come with us and take a look and see what he's done. It's quite remarkable. So we have a lot of faith in Alan, and we highly recommend him.
And what else did I have written down there?
Future plans to remineralize all or some or certain specific grapes?
As far as future remineralization, we're kind of letting the land tell us. As a farmer, of course, I'm in here daily, so I'm looking at areas that might need some help. So that was definitely one area. There might be another area closer to the Shield where things are a little sparse. We might look at maybe next year.
And so slowly, do you think you're gonna have a wine marketed as a remineralized wine?
I never thought of that. That's a good. I wouldn't even know how to remarket that.
Oh, okay.
Because we are the mineral capital of Canada here, in Hastings County. That would be interesting to me to do that. I'd have to see that. I'd actually have to try the grapes in the remineralized area before I can make a decision like that. Yeah, which makes sense.
Just an aside, when I sent the questions to Joanna, who runs Remineralize the Earth, she said, "Oh, in Europe they do that."
They do.
So apparently in Europe, she said she's got to double check, but going from her documents from a while back, apparently they do label in. You can label in Europe as remineralized. Just
Then we would actually.
it might be.
Yeah, that might be a great thing to do. Now, mind you, it's only a certain portion of the vineyard that had the remineralization. So I'm all about being honest on my labels, so I can't say it's remineralized if not the entire plot is remineralized.
Right. It
So
would
we
be
would have to do the whole thing for me to put that on my label.
Because that particular patch, that 1 acre is not going to be like its own cuvee. Is it cuvee?
No, it's the same grapes that you see here. So it's just it never produced, and we didn't understand why. But if the entire 12 acres was remineralized, then yes, I would definitely put it on the label. Yeah, I think that's important. You always want to let folks know what's going on. But I think that if only a small portion of the vineyard was remineralized, I think for my own personal ethics, I think it would be misleading to say all the wines have been remineralized, which is not.
Yeah, totally. What else we got there?
Stuff about the awards and where the wines are sold.
Right. Which awards? Recently, I heard you won a gold in
Yes,
Paris?
we won in Bordeaux, France. We're on CBC News, coast to coast, for a blend that we sent there. The French have an interesting way of doing things. They don't want to drink crappy wine all day, so what they do is they make it very expensive for you to send your wines in. So the National Wine Awards of Canada was 60 judges. This was 800 judges, and they wanted 10 cases of our wine at $80 a bottle, which is $12,000 plus shipping, which costs another $4,000 plus the entry fee, which is another $2,000. So what the French are doing is either you're very rich, like you have domains and chateaus that can afford to send it, or you got to be really confident in your product if you're going to take that kind of financial risk. So we sent it and we succeeded. I am heartened if that little patch bounced back like it did. The fruit will be bearing next year if all goes well, and that will really tell the tale. This was applied in the springtime, so we just see the bounce back. Now it's going to come down to the fruit and the quality of the fruit, and we won't know until next season. But it'd be worth a continuation of your video for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, this time next year in that area where Alan worked.
Yeah, we'll definitely follow that up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Would you tell by the taste of a wine or taste of the actual
Absolutely.
grapes?
So mineralization, what it does is it, no matter where you go on planet Earth, the vineyard owners will tell you how mineral their soils are. Minerality is extremely important when it comes to wine because it's scientifically proven that the more mineral the soil, the higher the quality of the wine. What minerality does, it gives wine complexity, depth, and heightens aromas and tastes. What the minerality will do as the plant uptakes into the fruit, it just heightens everything. So it's the gold standard for all winemaking. So I kind of giggle when I go to northern France, like, oh, a terroir, c'est très minéral. I'm like, yep, you're just chalk. You come to Prince Edward County, oh, we're so mineral. I'm like, yep, you're just limestone. You come to Hastings County, especially with Alan's help, and we are mineral on steroids. And Niagara has 15 calculated minerals. Prince Edward County has 13. We have 242. Now, there's 5,000 different minerals in the world, and Alan came out and he inspected the land, inspected the soils, and with his many years of education experience, he could tell right away what our soils needed to balance it. Now, even though we're hyper mineral here, it doesn't mean that I have everything. So Alan took a look at our area that was lacking, and he remineralized that, and the plants just bounced back. But it'll take another year for us to actually try the fruit and see the quality of the fruit, and then another year after that before the wine is made. So it's not like, you know, having donuts at Tim Hortons where you know the next day you get your dough and your sugar. Great, this is Mother Nature. This takes time, and only the patient of vineyard owners can really, you know, bring this to fruition in the glass. But minerality is completely, probably the number one most important aspect of making wine, I would say, other than the actual grapes themselves. I mean, winemaking is very complex. You need the yeast, you need the barrels, your fruit, the quality of fruit is very important, but minerality is another. The French call it terroir. That's talking about the soil, because everybody's different terroir will affect the flavor of the wine. Now, we know that we're called mineral on steroids up here. They said it's not fair. You have so many minerals here. But again, that doesn't mean that we have them all, and that's where Alan comes in.
That's all we got.
That's all we got. Those are the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Was it okay?
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so
Yeah, as far as acres, when France has been picking grapes by hand for 5,000 years. But in the New World, they don't have 12 acres like me. You might have 12,000 acres, and that has to be done with a machine. The machines don't discern. They bring in the good grapes and the dirty grapes and the bugs and the rot and the bird poop and everything, and then they have to add bleach to it to kill it all that bacteria. And then they have to reflavor it with tannin, and that's sold in your government monopoly stores, 660 stores owned by the LCBO, to fill those shelves. We're little. We sell out here. We're really tiny. We make high-end wines, and we hand-pick the grapes. So we want everything clean. Consider us making chocolate cake for 5 people. Consider the LCBO making Twinkies for 1 million people at your local gas station. It's different. And you know, they have to fill those stores, and that's fine, but this is just higher end. We're small. Those are Allier barrels from France, made in Italy. And so we're using the best we can to make the best wines possible. So we will crush these out. We get actually Napa sugars out here, because you have to understand what's happening. Because you are on the very edge of the Canadian Shield, there's 300-foot cliffs in the back. The Great Lakes lowlands is limestone, that flat land out the window. You're in the corner, and that's north. So the north wind will go over top of me, and the sun will warm the rocks, and I get a little mini microclimate right down here in the very shadow of the Canadian Shield. And that's why we can grow this kind of stuff that you would be shocked that when you come around here. Most folks from Toronto, like, we had no idea this even existed here. So, and even more so winning in France for our wines is just almost like a fairy tale, but it's a lot.
It's a dream come true.
It is a dream. We're making the dream come true, but the dream requires a lot of work. And we're very grateful to have Alan with his expertise helping us make sure the land is balanced, because remineralization is very, very important. This is my great grandma's farm. So the problem, it's not so much a problem when you're on a generational farm, and you guys are guests of our farm. I'm just the generational caretaker of my grandma's land. My people, so I have a responsibility to keep that land clean and productive for the next generation, which means we don't want to spray stuff like fungicide, systemic poisons, or Roundup. We want clean food. It's just, it's the old way. We're hand pulling the weeds, and we're doing everything right. And we want to make sure that the land is viable again for our future generations, for posterity's sake. And that's kind of where Alan comes in, because we only started selling wine 4 years ago, so we want to make sure that it's viable for the future. And when Alan comes in and says, okay, to better this area, this is what is required. And I remember you had a mineral, what was it, Alan, from India that you used? And I thought that was the garnet. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And you had stuff from California and stuff from Europe and stuff from locally, maybe that we just didn't have on our property, and organic material as well. And we see a huge difference in how the plant life has responded. However, of course, it's not just about mom, the plant. It's also about the babies, the grapes, and it's just the plant has to get strengthened up before she starts producing fruit, and we'll know next year. And we fully intend on making a batch of that remineralized wine.
And what's this thing?
That is a bladder press. That's what they call a slow press. What happens if you use the big companies use these big mechanical presses, and it crunches the grapes and bleeds out all your juice, but it's very abusive. It bruises the fruit. This, you put your hose down, your water pressure down to 15 psi, and you see the valves in the back, and it's a bladder inside that goes really slowly. It just pops the berry, and then it just a gentle pressure, gravity trickles down, so you're not getting these kind of acidic issues from bruising the skin. So we're very careful. That's an old bladder press, and we treat it. This is what we do. We're little, we do it right, the slow way. Yeah. The old days you used to foot stomp it like on Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Because human beings aren't that heavy. You don't have the PSI, those big machines, and you have that's why a lot of the older wines are better than the bulk new stuff.
But it's a bit of a hassle to find people with clean feet.
Well, the government would never allow that in a million years for health reasons, right? Having a bunch of people with dirty feet walk on the grapes. So everything's clean and sterilized, but we do it the old-fashioned way. So these are new wines the old way. This grape is the mother's Pinot Noir. It's called Marquette. We are the first planting of this grape in the country, as recognized by the grape growers in our government. Everyone wants this in the ground now because it just keeps on winning medals. We've won 16 international medals with this grape already. Because it's got enough Quebec genetics in it, This grape, see, there's a. I don't want to get away from mineralization, but this is interesting. If you have a winery and you're in Napa and you plant a Chardonnay, and you're in Sonoma, or pick a place, Niagara, and you plant a Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon, those grapes are not from North America. They're from Europe. And they will die here on this continent because they have not evolved here to resist the local diseases in our air, like anthracnose or downy mildew or powdery mildew. So the only way to keep those plants alive is that you have to spray them once a week from bud break in May to harvest in October with fungicide systemic poisons, courtesy of your pals at BASF and Monsanto, and you'll get a crop, and the government will allow parts per million of those poisons in your wine, but it's not so great for you, and it's not so great for the environment. So what the Honeycrisp apple team, and the Honeycrisp apple team, have you guys ever heard of a Honeycrisp apple?
Sure, yeah.
They got into the grape business because they thought we're smarter than that. So what they did is they took a grape from Quebec called Landau Noir, and it's a tough grape, it's a wild grape. Wine's not so great, but there are two components about it that they loved. Number one, it evolved here for millions of years, resisting these diseases. So it's organic, you have to spray anything. The second quality of that grape is that it's cold resistant down to -50. You marry that old wild Quebec grape to a classic French beauty called Pinot Noir, and you get the love child, which is the mighty Marquette. Now, Marquette is not as tough as Dad. It can go down to about -30. I'll take -30, that's pretty amazing. That gives me a lovely vineyard this far north. It's also completely organic. Spray anything. No, I don't have to wreck my grandma's land, which is really important to me, but it's the taste that matters. In the wine world, they don't care. All they care about is a taste. And blind tastings, for some reason, that wine tastes like an 1800s Bordeaux. It tastes like an old-fashioned Bordeaux, and it's just creaming everybody at competitions. Everybody's rushing now to get this in the ground. We won the Premier's Award for that grape, and also served the President of the United States, that's President Obama, and Prime Minister Trudeau in their offices for pushing award-winning red wines 200 miles northwards for our country, allowing other folks to grow this and help our economy, which I think is a big deal. But you have to have you have to have healthy soil. The terroir is very important. We have beautiful terroir here, but nothing's uniform in any vineyard. Some, it depends on if there's a south-facing slope or what's going on. And this is where Alan comes in. He came in and he kind of detected the areas in our vineyard that needed a little help, and he's done that for us, and we're excited to see what the future brings.
Thank you so much.
Your vault is ensconced in the stone.